Juice on the dome. 16 had learned very well about how to pull passengers. Thomas had taught him well. He pulled him to stations very carefully, and he was well on time. There was an orchard at Farmer McColl's farm, which Thomas had brought Terence to grow. Farmer McColl had grown all kinds of fruit there. There were apples, strawberries, peaches, mangoes, plums, and of course, oranges. Farmer McColl was picking the fruit and all ready for market. Percy had arrived with some freight cars to carry the fruit in. "There's a market on the mainland, Percy," said Farmer McColl. "Be careful with this fruit." "Yes, sir," said Percy. Percy was well on his way to Knapford Harbor. Up ahead, he saw 16 at Maithwaite Station. "Hello, 16," said Percy. "You're looking eager to work." "I am, Percy," said 16. "Thomas had taught me very well. He helped me with the coaches, and now I'm to take freight cars from the quarry." He looked at Percy's train. "Why are you taking fruit, Percy?" he asked. "There's to be a market on the mainland," said Percy. "Farmer McColl wants this fruit to get there on time." Later, Percy arrived at the harbor. "Percy," said Julie, "fruit cars! There should be for the market on the mainland." "Anything to help the market," said Percy. "Come on, Percy," said his driver. "Farmer McColl has some more fruit for us to deliver." Percy returned to Farmer McColl's farm, and much to his surprise, there was 16. "16? What are you doing here?" asked Percy. "I've already delivered the cars to the quarry, and since I have no other jobs, I'm taking the fruit to the harbor," said 16. "Try your best, 16," warned Percy. 16 puffed away with the fruit, while Percy went to see if the cars went to the quarry. But what 16 had forgotten to do was sit for Farmer McColl to cover up his cars with tarpaulins. "16," said his driver, "don't you think you've forgotten something?" "I'm sure it could have been nothing important," said 16. But a tarpaulin was very important indeed. Percy had arrived at the quarry, and much to his surprise, there were no cars. "Where are 16's cars?" quizzed Percy. "Mavis, Splatter, and Dodge? Did 16 bring any of them here?" "Afraid not, Percy," said Mavis. "Haven't seen anyone but Toby come here." "Then that means 16 left his cars in the siding," Percy said crossly. He set out to find the freight cars 16 had left behind. "I must find them, I must," he puffed. "That's 16." But Percy didn't have to look too far. Outside Farquhar Station, they were in a siding. "There they are," said Percy. Meanwhile, 16 was about to have problems of his own. He was just nearing the harbor when up ahead, a signal changed on him. "Stop!" cried 16. When 16 came to a sudden stop, some oranges flew right out of his freight car, landing all over him. One orange even landed on his dome. Luckily, no one was hurt, but 16 was very cross. "Now I'll be late," he grumbled. His driver climbed out of the cab and couldn't help but laugh. "You look like an orange juice," laughed the driver. There was no time to clean 16, as the signal had changed, and 16 was well on his way. By now, Percy had collected all the stone from the quarry and was on his way to the harbor. "I'll show 16 what happens when you leave your cars behind," he huffed. When Percy arrived at the harbor and saw an orange perched on 16's dome, he could only laugh. "What's so funny?" asked 16. "You, of course," laughed Percy. "An orange on your dome. So?" Percy told 16 all about the time he had plowed through porridge, and the time Wilbur had taken on milk instead of water. "I think you, Wilbur, Thomas, and I would make a fine breakfast pair," laughed Percy. "I had a porridge, Wilbur had the milk, Thomas had some eggs and bacon, and you've had the juice." Even 16 had to laugh. When Percy had delivered his freight cars, he went to the juice factory to collect some bottles of juice for the grocery stores. When he arrived, he began to feel thirsty. "Bradley," said Percy to his driver, "I'm beginning to feel a bit funny." When Percy arrived, the fireman put a hose into Percy's tank and turned the handle. "This is more like it," sighed Percy happily. The factory manager came out to see what was happening. "Stop!" he shouted. "That's not water, that's apple juice." Percy's fireman turned off the water, and Percy felt uncomfortable. "Oh no," he groaned. 16 was sent over to the factory, and he pulled Percy to get cleaned and have the juice drained. Liz came to take the juice train on. "I guess we are a fine pair," chuckled Percy. "We've both had some kind of juice on us." "Yes," said 16. "I had orange juice. You had apple juice." Percy, despite feeling silly, could only laugh. Soon, the juice was drained from his tank and thoroughly cleaned. "I guess you, Wilbur, and 16 make a fine crew," chuckled Thomas. "First you had the porridge, and you had the juice." "Wilbur had the same incident in the dairy when he came to Sodor," added Percy. "And also, you had bacon and eggs." And the three friends laughed together. One day, 16's time on Thomas's branch line had come to an end. "I hope you'll come back and work with us soon," said Percy, "and thank you for helping me out." "No, thank you for making up for my own mistake," smiled 16. "Our work is now under control thanks to you," added Percy. "Have fun when you're going next," added Lady. "Try to be useful like the rest of us," put in Julie. "And no more causing these problems," finished Daisy. And 16 puffed away. Thomas, Lady, Percy, and Julie whistled, and Daisy blasted her horn until he was out of sight.